This landed at a ranch at Corona, New Mexico. The rancher turned it over to the Air Force. Rancher W.W. Brazil was the man who discovered the saucer.
What I thought was a star began coming in my direction at a very rapid rate of speed.
The unidentified object, which some sources thought might be a blimp, moved slowly down the Pacific coast from Santa Monica and disappeared south of Long Beach.
I saw a UFO, and it went down the river, turned right at the United Nations, turned left, and then down the river.
UFO Classified. UFO Classified. No more plausible deniability. Fact, fiction, or the truth. You decide. And now, the new voice of the high desert, the hostess of UFO Classified, Erica Lukes.
Oh, good evening and happy Fantopia Friday, my friends. I'm Erica Lukes here on a cloudy, kind of mysterious day in Salt Lake City. It's definitely a bit chilly, and there might be a lightning storm rolling into town, which will be kind of fun since I am now officially driving my 1965 Ford Galaxy convertible, and I'm out terrorizing curbs and small animals and all sorts of things and that. And I'll be posting some pictures of it because it's a really, really cool car. And I'll probably, drive out to Dugway, get into some trouble. Who knows what will happen. But I am always happy to be here, and I am incredibly grateful that people are listening to the show all over the world and messaging me. I've been getting a lot of different messages and reports from all of you on UFOclassified.com, and I appreciate you doing that and reaching out to me, especially with regard to the orange amber sphere objects that we are seeing that truly need to be taken seriously and researched. And so keep it up. This Sunday, of course, is episode 4 of UFOs, The Lost Evidence on American Heroes channel. I've been getting some good feedback about that. That was a fun show. So make sure you watch it. And again, give me your feedback. Just reach out and never be afraid to ask questions or to learn or to find really good, credible people, which can be a bit challenging in this field, I must say. As some of you have been listening to my show since I first started way back when, it has been a learning process and sometimes painful for me to try to find people that I really trust and people that I can look to for good work. And I found that people in mainstream ufology or different organizations in particular might not be in this for pure motives. And so I have found a group of researchers that have gone mostly underground who share information with me and who I learn from and who I can really reach out to. And I hope to kind of share those people with you, get them on UFO Classified, and give you the skills to learn how to identify objects and do your own research, because that is truly how we are going to make a difference, I believe. So basically, don't necessarily believe everything you read in mainstream ufology or hear, because it's not true. And I think my guest tonight might have a few things to say about that, and that's why I like him so much. I finally met my guest tonight, Greg Bishop, at the UFO Congress, and we hung out, and I listened to him speak, and I was really struck with the fact that, he's been in this game for a long, long time, but also he has a very, almost kind of a dry, not cynical, but very guarded approach to this, and he's not going to go down any particular path unless he knows that's the right path to go down. I respect that, and he speaks his mind, and I really think that that's something that we need to uphold and look towards. He also hangs around some pretty cool people like Jeff Ritzman, who's been on the show as well, and he's supporting good work. Greg Bishop, here's his bio. He co-founded a magazine called The Excluded Middle, which was a journal of UFOs, the paranormal, conspiracy, psychedelia, and new science. His first book, Wake Up Down There, oh, if I could speak English. It talked about articles and features. And then his second book was Project Beta, which documented a government campaign of disinfo perpetrated against an unsuspecting researcher. His third book, Weird California, was released in 2006. And he also wrote, which I've got right in front of me, a signed copy because I am so lucky. It is called It Defies Language. It's essays on UFOs and other weirdness. His show, Radio Mysterioso, and you can find that at radiomysterioso.com, is now in its 17th year. And he features fringe topic researchers, occasionally weird music, so we know I have to love him. He also flies paragliders, and he's a private pilot and an aerial drone photographer. And I have to say, I think that he is the bomb. So, Greg, thank you so much. I know this is your third interview in 2 days?
3 days. Yeah, they just all ran together. I don't know why it happened, and then I don't have anything for weeks or months after this. So until somebody calls me and says, because some people set up 2 days in advance, a week in advance. Other people months. So you never know. I for my show, I call people anywhere between a few hours and a few months, depending on how much time they have, and I'm having somebody on Sunday that I just talked to 2 days ago, and I said, "How about Sunday?" And he said, "Okay, fine, sure."
So who are you having on Sunday?
Mike Marinacci. He's one of the co-authors of Weird California. He wrote a book called California Jesus. It's basically about cults and religious offshoots in California, and he's a California historian. So I got to read the book yet before Sunday, but he's got a great sense of humor and a really good eye for the strange. He wrote a book called Mysterious California in 1988. Which was probably one of the first guides to weird things in certain a weird travelogue, so people can go visit themselves. So he's been around for a long time, and he's going to be on my show on Sunday evening talking about California Jesus.
I like California Jesus. That's very intriguing to me.
Sounds like an album by
I know it feels like a band name.
Or something. Yeah, or a band name. Anything in ufology sounds like a band name. It's amazing.
And I have to say though that Utah Jesus just doesn't have the same ring.
Yeah, I guess not. It'd have to be like Utah Buddha or Utah Verona or something.
I don't. Yeah, that could work.
Yeah.
So for people, because I have a lot of new people in the field or people that are trying to find good information that might not have heard of you, and I know you're probably a little bit over telling your story, but that's just too bad because I think we might need to hear it. So how did you fall into this world?
I don't know.
The luck of the draw, eh?
Yeah. No, well, I've said this before, but I started reading books on the paranormal as soon as I could read, practically. And I have no idea why I did that. Because my dad said, let's go to the library and why don't we look up some books? And he didn't care what the books were. He never told me what to read. He just wanted my sister and I to read. And for some reason, 90% of the books I checked out from the library and read were Bigfoot, they weren't even called cryptozoological yet. Bigfoot, Loch Ness Monster, werewolves, ghosts, UFOs, a heavy dose of UFO stuff. And that was my interest for a long time. I didn't know anybody else who was interested in it. It was just me all by myself. I really couldn't talk to anybody about it. So I just soaked up all this information. Then we went to another library, and I found all the books I hadn't found at the first library and read those. So, and then I forgot about it. I turned 13 or 14 or something like that, and went into high school soon after that. And, there was, booze and girls and all the things you do in high school, and I forgot about it till after college. And I had a horrible period in my life where, suicidal thoughts and all kinds of terrible things. And my interest blossomed suddenly, and I don't really know why. And so maybe it saved my life. I have no idea. But I've never really had a sighting of anything or any kind of experience or close experience or anything like that I could, I could say was a touchstone. Not at all. In fact, I feel kind of ripped off that I haven't really seen anything besides some lights really far off a couple of times. Nothing that you would be, nothing heart-stoppingly amazing. So I'm still waiting.
Oh dear. Well, maybe tonight's your lucky night then.
Maybe. Well, we're not. What do you mean? If I look out the window, if we talk about it too much?
Maybe.
No. Well, I was doing interviews and talking to people recently, and it seems like you get near. I mean, Stephen Greer, I guess, notwithstanding, however you think of him, I think he's kind of a charlatan and full of himself. But the fact that some people seem like vectors, and I'm sure you know this, for weird things to happen, if you hang out with them, they seem to be attracted to those people or the situations that those people put you in. So that's kind of fascinating to me. But I've never hung out with those kind of people, at least yet. Maybe I should go up to the Gilliland's ranch.
I mean, but I mean, honestly, I mean, what do you think about that? Because I honestly think that there are some interesting things that have taken place in that whole area.
You mean up at his ranch there in Oregon?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what to make of it. I haven't been there. The fact that he charges money for it and all that, I guess he has to because it's the place that he lives, that he owns. But once money gets involved, I get kind of squirrely and weird about it. I mean, it's not to say there isn't something going on. And then, I've seen compelling video and all that. And I've talked to people that have been there, people who I trust. But the thing is, unless somebody's a complete horrible charlatan, I try not to make a hard and fast decision about anything. I suspend disbelief and judgment for lots and lots of things. Even when other people are calling for people's heads or whatever, I'm just going to wait and see what happens here. I'm not going to, make a big stink about anybody being, a horrible person or anything like that. And in fact, if I have to complain, I usually shut up because, what am I supposed to do? I'm not a crusader. I'm trying to find out things for myself and learn things for myself. I'm not here to, I'm glad people like, what's his name? The guy with the UFO Watchdog, Royce Myers. That's a great site. I'm glad he's doing that. That's not me. So it's really valuable to keep an open mind, and not open mind like your brains fall out open mind, but to reserve judgment. I think reserving judgment is really valuable. And sometimes you have to reserve judgment forever. And that's fine.
But do you think, because I mean, this is my own impression coming into this, I think that there's that little contingent of people who found their niche, kind of bullying and, calling out charlatans and, doing all this crap when, in my opinion, I mean, okay, that's great. It serves a purpose. But in my opinion, it's like, why can't we freaking focus on finding good researchers or, put our focus on something that is educating people, teaching them about the natural environment and how to identify something anomalous instead of crucifying people just for the sake of building up your ego.
Yeah, well, that happens a lot, and I don't condone it. I think it's a waste of time. I guess it may not be for some people, but to me, the important thing, and I think I talked about this in the talk that you saw, is the most important thing in all of this is what causes UFO reports. And everything should be feeding into that question, not where do they come from, what kind of aliens, whatever the hell, what causes the report, because that opens so many other avenues of inquiry, which we need to do. And the other thing, to sort of more address your question, I've started in the last few years, I've stopped complaining about what I think's wrong and concentrating on people, issues, and things that I can do that I think are right and I think have some value. Because anybody can complain. Lots of people complain. It's easy to complain. What's hard to do, and a lot more rewarding if you can do it and get on the track, is to find things out for yourself, champion people who you think are doing good work, and also be open to change your opinion, to modify your opinion if new information comes up. I've changed my opinion 2 or 3 different times on different things in the last few years, and I don't care. I don't care if somebody says, well, you were saying this before, so you're wishy-washy. Fine, that's what you think. I'm still learning.
And then, you know, I mean, praise the Lord for that one. I think that's really important to say. And that's always been my thing when you've got people that are always jumping up and down and, you know, crucifying other people. It's like, you know, we're all going to be wrong. None of us, you know, we're studying something that is unknown. And for us to criticize or tear down other researchers who are making a genuine effort seems like it seems like a very small-minded pursuit. And you know, I mean, you know what I mean? I just think
yes,
it's
I do
really...
know what you mean. You know what? The two things I'll say to react to that. One is my new T-shirt is going to say "Do not engage" on it. Yeah.
I'll take one in every size.
Yeah, and the second one is you know about the Westboro Baptist Church, right? Those
Yes.
crazy people that go. Anyway, the best way people have found to get them to shut up is to ignore them. They come out to a town, and a couple towns have finally said, look, when they get out here, nobody go out there, nobody react, don't even show up. No news cameras, nothing. And after 10 minutes, they leave because nobody's paying any attention to them. So right. I think, you know, if you see something, if somebody has legitimate beef and they've got to, you know, instead of ignoring them, you have to answer some critics, especially if they have a point. But if they're just trying to be nasty or they're calling you names right out the gate, I say ignore them, because I've had that happen. I say, look, you've got a point, but you're being a dick. So when you come back and you're polite and you can engage with me on these issues one by one, and preferably privately, so that ego is out of it, I'm perfectly happy to talk to you and answer questions. And when people have done that, I have changed my opinion and some of my views on things because I could see their point. Other times they're just full of it and I didn't care. But at least they're being polite, you know?
Right. God, and that's such a shocker. I mean, it's I think it's interesting because you and I have had private conversations just about some of the things we've both been through. And for me, even though I'm, you know, right there taking on what I see is wrong with large organizations, because in my opinion, it's doing a disservice to the whole field, and it's doing a disservice to people who are trying to get into this and are being led kind of down the wrong path. And so, and I'm doing that because of the experiences I've had that are very valid. And so, you know, it's a challenging thing. How do you walk that line? You know, I try to bring on people that I think are positive, you know, like you, or like Fran Ridge, like Barry Greenwood, people that have something of merit that can teach younger people getting into this. And I know that that's what we all need to collectively do.
Yeah.
Or at least all five of us that are, you know, trying to do good stuff.
Well, I think everybody thinks they're trying to do good stuff, which is great. But I'm not even in here to teach anybody anything. I'm completely honest in my viewpoint of I'm here because I'm completely selfish. I want to find out what's going on. I want to learn something. I want to grow, you know, in my awareness. I've stopped using the word "I want some answers," because if you want answers, that means you're presupposing an answer and you're going to start tracking yourself down an answer path. I don't think that's not useful for me. But the fact is, and this is the reason I do my show, and I often don't take calls, because I really want to listen to what the guest is saying. I really want to talk to the person that I'm talking to. I don't want somebody coming in and asking a question that's irrelevant to me. And I know that's selfish, and it might be even a little rude. But I tell people that up front. And the fact is that you keep doing this for a while, and people start coming to you, and you accrete friends, and you meet people, and that's just the way I like doing it. I don't like tearing people down. I like building people up if I think they're doing good work. But yeah, it's always like, let's move forward with this instead of, you know, sitting in the pit and fighting with each other. If you guys want to fight, that's fine with me. I got stuff to learn with people who are moving forward and who are positive and who I can learn from and who I get inspiration from. That's an important one too. So if you can, you know, you do that in your work, people will naturally say, oh, this is interesting to me. Let me follow this for a while. Let me see if I can get in touch with this person and talk to them about it, you know. that's that I think that's my model right now, and it has been for a few years now. So yeah, do not engage is a mantra now.
Oh my God, I seriously want one of those T-shirts. I really do.
Okay, I'm about to set up a cafe press with a bunch of different things for my show and all that, because I notice other people are doing it. It's like, oh, okay, I guess I better do it. So yeah, one of them will be like sayings, and other things will be like logos for my show and stuff like that, I guess. I mean, it's a gig economy now, right? I don't have a normal job anymore. So, you were saying in the beginning. So all the things that you say, he does this and this and this. Yeah, I know, because I got to survive.
Well, and that brings up, that's a great thing. When I go to conferences and I'm speaking, it's like I'm there and I'm just lecturing, and then everybody else has a table where they're selling things, and I'm just like, oh, maybe I need to to get on this a little bit more, because I don't know, I clearly am slacking.
All right, get a book out, do what you think you should be doing, and if you hear something from somebody, it's like, that's a good idea, pursue it, because if you pursue something, here's my model of getting stuff done. I imagine it done already in the future. And I just have to work myself to the place where, I get to the point where the thing is done. Like, I'm going to write this book. Okay, it's going to be done in the future, and I'm going to be talking to people about it, maybe lecturing, being on podcast and radio shows. It's done already at some point in the future. I just need to work myself in this point of time to the place where that thing is done. And I know it's going to be done. There's no question about it. And that seems to be able to close a loop of causality, or whatever you want to call it, to get things done. So,
well, I like it, and I think that definitely it's a hard thing, I think, monetarily, as to put your money into radio shows, to take time away from your family or your career, and to do this. And more often than not, you're doing this because you care, and because you're trying to change the world in some way. So it takes a great deal of commitment, and not only fiscally but personally. You sacrifice a lot.
Yeah, I'm not even trying to change the world. I'm trying to change me. If the world changes as a result of people I meet and talk to and all that, so much the better. If you do your thing, then that's what you should be doing, I think, if that makes sense. It sounds hippie-ish and new agey, but that's what it boils down to. If stuff happens, or you get an award or whatever the hell it is, or somebody notices or whatever, you should be like, oh, I didn't even know that was going to happen. This is great. Because you're so focused on your thing that it just becomes, if it's good work, it will attract people and effort and all that. And other than that, you just stay focused. Yeah, and unfortunately it does cost money and take time and all that kind of stuff. But, everything else follows from just being very focused on the thing that you think you should be doing, I think.
Well, I like it. And on that note, we're going to take a break. I'm Erica Lukes here with Greg Bishop. And I'd like to thank all of you for getting into chat and asking your questions, especially my friend Jeff Cox. So we're going to take a break. We will be right back.
This is UFO Classified with Erica Lukes.
Erica Lukes.
The phone lines are open now at 702-425-9230. That's 702-425-9230. Worldwide callers use Skype name KCOR Radio. More UFO Classified.
UFO Classified
with Erica Lukes on the KCOR Digital Radio Network. After this. Bowl for Life is a non-profit organization founded in 2013 by Chuck Gardner with one simple goal: to grow the sport of bowling worldwide. Over the years, Bowl for Life has given out thousands of dollars in scholarships to youth bowlers around the world. Our focus is to nurture integrity, honesty, professionalism, as well as respect into bowlers both young and old. You can help us by going to bowlforlife.com. Even the smallest donation goes a long way to breaking down the barriers and helping us assist people of all ages to improve their skills as well as knowledge of the game. Bowl for Life is happy to be partnered with other great organizations like the Youth Education Services Fund, as well as the United States Bowling Congress, with many spectacular integrated events planned in the near future. To learn more, go to bowlforlife.com. That's bowlforlife.com.
Digital HD Radio.
What if maintaining a healthy weight was as simple as drinking a cup of coffee? With Valentis Coffee, it's that easy. Harvested from the world's most pristine coffee farms and packed with the purest ingredients on earth, Valentis takes losing weight to a completely new level. At Valentis, we believe everyone deserves a chance to be healthy and fit. It's pure, natural, healthy, and delicious. Click the Valentis Healthiest Coffee banner on the KCOR Digital Radio Network website and take the Weight Loss Guarantee Challenge. Valentis Coffee, simply the world's healthiest coffee.
Each week, join Patrick Phillips as he takes you inside Hollywood. In-depth celebrity interviews, the very latest entertainment news, and more. Patrick Phillips hosts Pop Culture Tonight.
Join me Thursdays at 1 p.m. right here on the KCOR Digital Radio Network.
When danger is imminent, will you be prepared? Now many mobile devices can bring you critical information from local sources you trust. With the unique sound and vibration, wireless emergency alerts keep you in the know wherever you are. Learn more at ready.gov/alerts. Brought to you by FEMA and the Ad Council.
America's favorite radio station just keeps getting better.
Hello, people. Aaron Hunter here, host of the show Real Paranormal Activity, where we tell the true stories of the paranormal from people like you. We also interview authors, mediums, psychics, and investigators as we dive headfirst into the murky waters of the paranormal. We discuss subject matter such as orbs, shadow people, paganism, the occult, and the demonic. Join me on Mondays at 7 p.m. Pacific, 10 p.m. Eastern, here at KCOR Digital Radio Network.
Alien Deceptions, a suspenseful sci-fi romance thriller by Tina Marie, featuring the tantalizing Erica Jones and the mysterious Russell Hamilton. An out-of-this-world book of fiction based on years of document facts and files the government does not want you to know about, at least not yet. Alien Deceptions by Tina Marie. Available now at Amazon.com or get a signed copy at TinaMarieEntertainment.com. Get your copy now.
You're listening to
UFO Classified with Erica Lukes, where the truth isn't hidden beneath the black lines of a Sharpie.
That's the craziest thing I've ever heard.
To be on with Erica, call 702-425-9230. That's 702-425-9230. Worldwide callers use Skype name KCOR Radio.
Radio contact.
Share your thoughts on the show on Twitter by using hashtag KCOR. Or head over to the live chats at KCORradio.com.
The audience goes nuts!
And now, your host of UFO Classified.
Are you ready?
Erica Lukes.
Erica Lukes.
Oh, Carla Turner, Paul Benowitz, Stephen Greer. I don't know. We've got a lot of people to talk about tonight, and I just want to say that Greg Bishop happens to be one of my favorite people in this field. He has written and studied extensively for a couple decades about UFOs and the paranormal, has authored 3 books, Wake Up Down There, Project Beta, Weird California, and then he has RadioMysterioso.com, but then I've got It Defies Language, essays on UFOs and other weirdness, which he was kind enough to send to me, autographed, after I did my first episode of the Paracast. And that, like, no, you were, Greg, you were on the Paracast, right?
Yeah, I was once in a while. Gino called me to co-host, and if I got time, I go, yeah, okay. And you were the guest that day, I believe.
Oh, and I think I was so traumatized.
About what? There's no reason. I did not detect any traumatization. I try to be happy and fun and whatever.
No, you were so awesome. No, but I mean, you have to admit, like, to me, like when I first did that, it was that was probably. I mean, it was. Gene can be a little tough, and I like that. And I have to say that I've been a guest host on the Paracast many times because I've become, I like the Paracast a lot. But for me, the first time doing that interview, I was like, whoa.
Yeah. I mean, do you want to know the first interview I ever did on the radio ever for anything I ever wrote was Art Bell.
Oh, my.
what a horrible thing to have be thrown into the deep end on. And after the first hour, Art came on, like after the when it went to commercial, he said, "Greg, hold it together here. You're starting to sound like Richard Hoagland."
No, he did not. Are you
Yes,
kidding
he
me?
did.
Oh,
Yeah.
oh God.
I think that's the name he used. And I said, "Would you like?" And when we came back, I said, "Would you like me to summarize the book?" Because I was just I was speaking in tongues almost the first half hour because I was so nervous. Like, oh, there's just 3 million people listening, and I don't know what to say. And after that, I calmed down. And then after the second half hour, Richard Doty came on, and he basically took over the show, which was fine by me because it sold books.
Wow. I bet that I've got to go listen to that archive.
Yeah. Well, it wasn't. Everybody thinks it's some big conspiracy by Art Bell of the Air Force or something. It wasn't. Bell called me and he said, I said, "Would you like to have Richard Doty on?" And he said, "Who's Richard Doty?" Indicating to me that he hadn't read the book. But it didn't matter. He was such a great host. He didn't even have to read what you were talking about, and he would do a great interview. So I told him who he was, and I said, "I bet I could get him to get on the show." And he goes, "Well, okay, so let's see if you can do it." And I called him up, and he said, "Okay, I got to check with somebody," meaning probably the Air Force. And he came on the show. I don't know if I believed really much of anything that he said, but it was great having him on the show. It was a good show.
Yeah. I mean, so when was this? What year?
2006, I guess, 11 years ago.
Oh, so that was right when kind of Richard Doty was coming out into the public eye then with everything.
I guess so. I mean, I think the first interview, as far as I know, the first interview I ever gave with anybody was with me, and we had to do it in a Denny's in Grants, New Mexico, where he was living. I had to drive out there from Albuquerque, sat in a Denny's with him for like 4 hours. He would not let me record any of it. So after we were done, I got in the car and drove back to Albuquerque, repeating the conversation in my mind over and over and over and over again until I got to my hotel. And then I just sat down at my computer and pounded out like 10 pages of single-spaced type about everything I could remember from our conversation.
So for the younger people that do not know who Richard Doty is, give us a little teeny bit of the life and times of Richard Doty.
Whatever he's mentioned anywhere, especially amongst ufologists, they all hate him because he was involved. He was in the AFOSI, Air Force Office of Special Investigations, during a time when he had to monitor UFO researchers and figure out if they were looking at defense projects they shouldn't be looking at. He was at Kirtland Air Force Base in Albuquerque, which still has tons of defense projects, black projects. They were kind of the forefront of laser weapons, which are on airplanes now. You can see that. Adaptive optics, which astronomers use now to look at things through the atmosphere, so that they're not all blurry because of the atmosphere, etc. But what he did was he just monitored those ufologists because ufologists interested in weird stuff in the sky. If you got a project going on that flies through the sky that doesn't look like anything else, you want to know what people are saying. So he was involved in that. He also likes not telling the truth all the time. He actually enjoys it. He actually enjoys messing with people, and this is why people don't like him, and rightly so. However, the biggest question I got from people was, why do you trust him? Why do you even talk to him? Which to me seemed like a silly question. If you want to get an answer from somebody, even if it's not true all the time, you have to talk to them. That's the title of the first chapter in the book. You play the game or you get nothing. So if you don't choose to go out and play the game with people that you don't totally trust, you'll have nothing. So why not go in there, at least try and get something out of them and get some sort of triangulation of a lot of the stuff he told me either was not true or I couldn't check out. The stuff that I could check out that was confirmed to me by people, especially people outside the military, I tended to believe that he was mostly telling me what was going on. So you have to talk to these people, and you have to basically know that you're playing a game and it's not by your rules. So that's pretty much the background on Doty. And he retired from the Air Force, or I think he was discharged from the Air Force. No, I think he got an honorable discharge, but he got in trouble because of something having nothing to do with UFOs on an intelligence operation. And came back here, was honorably discharged, and then he ended his career doing as a state highway patrolman in New Mexico. And I think a couple of years ago, he finally retired and got his pension.
Wow. I mean, and it's incredible. I mean, do you think that there are people like Richard Doty involved in the UFO community now?
I tend to think not. At least not in the way we would expect. I mean, if you want anything that's even close to that, I guess you have to look at Tom DeLonge and what's going on with him.
Right.
I think that's the closest you can get to it right now. And I don't think that has much to do with disclosure as much as it has to do with we've got a certain viewpoint of what the UFO subject is, and we have the power to get that message out, and we're doing it through Tom DeLonge. And I think that's what's going on with DeLonge. If you see who wrote his last book with him, or probably wrote most of the book, Peter Levenda, and you know what his work is about, you can see probably what the idea is that they're trying to push through DeLonge and all of his projects and efforts.
So, and this is a really interesting place that I've kind of been going down a little bit lately. I mean, with this and Tom DeLonge, we were both sitting at UFO Congress when he was awarded Researcher of the Year. And I think that some of the other researchers in the audience were kind of taken aback, by this.
There was a lot of silence out there when they announced it. Everybody's like, what? What? Who? What? They all knew who you were at the next table. I noticed your table was very silent too.
Well, I think it's because, I was sitting at a table full of people that are kind of in the trenches, that are really doing stuff. And I'm not saying that Tom isn't, because he obviously has some very well-placed high connections. Right. I mean, obviously, but we're not seeing him interact at all with any of us.
No.
So, I mean, I think the big question was, what is his game? I think a lot of people, the sentiment was he's just doing this to sell more books or to sell more, yada, yada, yada.
I don't think so.
I don't think so either.
Because I did at the time. At the time, I thought, well, I guess this is just like some big marketing thing. I don't think that anymore. I think all the books and what he's planning and all that is a lot of talk, which may or may not come to fruition. Some of it has. But I think it's mainly because he doesn't have an endless supply of money. He's not some like multimillionaire. He might be, but not so much that he can just start throwing money down this hole. I think he's doing it just because he wants it to support itself, one, and two, maybe it will make money at some point. I believe that, from what I've heard, I think that's his business model. He's not sitting there rubbing his hands saying, I'm going to make so much money off of this. I think he's really believes in and is invested in what's going on with him and the adventure he's on.
And I agree, absolutely. And I've actually gotten into some heated debates with people, just saying that he is just doing this for, self-interest, to make money. And it's like, no, when I've listened to him, on Larry King or Coast to Coast or different things, I mean, he is incredibly knowledgeable. In fact, he probably knows more than a lot of people in this field.
You and I could still beat him at UFO Jeopardy. I know it.
Oh, I think that sounds like a challenge. Dun,
yeah.
dun, dun.
I told Alejandro, I said, you're going to have UFO Jeopardy this year? And he said, no. I was like, He said, well, nobody came. Not really many people came last year. I said, I don't care. I want to do UFO Jeopardy. I bet I could win. I think I won the one last year just by sitting there listening to the questions. I would have placed. I'm pretty sure, if not won. I was so confident of myself. So if he does it again, I told him, even if I'm not speaking, can I please? And he said, okay, yeah, sure. So I think Tom DeLonge should come, and it should be like him and me and you, or something like that.
I think that'd be fun. I mean, it would be good to see him at a big event like UFO Congress. It's actually interesting because like 2 or 3 years ago, I was at UFO Congress, and I was walking, kind of in the back, and a big lecture had just gotten done, and I looked up, and well, there was Tom DeLonge. And, he's got a baseball cap on, and I mean, he had his head down and was just, trying to be as incognito as he could be. And I think because I was under 60, I knew who he was. And I'm just like, I had to go up to him and just say, Tom, I think you're a great musician, good work, yada, yada. He's like, thank you. He was very modest and humble and really didn't even want to be acknowledged, but he was very nice. But I think that, he has been privy to a lot of information that none of us have been privy to. And like you were kind of saying, I think that you have to question,
accurate or not.
Right. You have to question the motives of the group of people that were giving him or are giving him the information.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm not exactly sure what their motives are, but it certainly seems like they're pushing a point of view, and I think that's their motivation. That, to me, the motivation is to push a point of view, not for any kind of intelligence gain, although I guess there might be some in there, but mostly because that's what they really believe is going on. I don't agree with them, but I don't have access to the information that they do. Even if I did, I still probably would take it with a grain of salt because that's just how I am.
So now this agenda that people are pushing that are probably working with him, I mean, what do you think the agenda is?
Well, if you look at the new book, it's kind of like, some other civilization, not human, alien, probably from another planet, has been affecting our history for a long time. It still is, and I think that they think we have to recognize this and be aware of it in prelude to maybe doing something about it. I think that's completely wrong and a bad way to. It's a belief system to me because I haven't seen what they've seen, so I don't. To me, it's a belief system that has no way of being proven, really. It's interesting, but it's been around since Eric von Däniken and before a little bit, I think. So it doesn't mean it's wrong. It's just mean it's one of many ideas to me, and I don't put all my eggs in one basket with these kind of ideas. If I was sitting there, every week and having them tell me this stuff, and my experience was DeLong's experience, I might feel a little bit differently. But I don't think so. I think I'm so agnostic about things, it's kind of sickening.
I think that might be I think that's important to kind of be agnostic, to be disconnected from your belief systems about this. Yeah. And it's challenging in this field. I mean, I think I've seen definitely, you've got this contingent who believes this is demonic, and everything that we're encountering is manipulating us or it is bad and all of this. And I think, to me, that is a really dangerous road to go down for many reasons.
Yeah, giving away power and choice. I think there are people that are addicted to this, like a horror movie or something like that. And whether it's true or not, why believe in a belief system that makes you helpless?
Right.
I don't believe in that. I mean, if there's one thing about me, I stole this from the Discordians, but something on my Facebook, one of the, what you're saying, it's death to all fanatics.
Are you going to get that on a t-shirt too?
Well, that's not an original.
Maybe not.
Me. Yeah, okay, well, neither is do not engage, but that's a good one.
Oh,
But yeah, I think belief and aligning yourself with some certain philosophy or whatever, unless it's a philosophy of let's wait and see, is, especially for the UFO thing, particularly, is destructive. You have to. The two biggest enemies I see for ufology are ego and belief, and in that order too.
Yet that is what you're getting on a T-shirt.
Yeah. My other T-shirt was mimic the obliqueness of the phenomenon.
Oh.
Yeah. If you try concentrating on it's like as soon as you try concentrating on something, the UFO phenomenon will show you that how many ways you are wrong.
Right.
And you won't even realize it until everybody else is telling you. Did you realize? And then you still won't because you're so invested in your belief system that you can't consider anything else. That's why I brought up the Zeticism and Pyrrhonism in my lecture, the Greek philosophy of philosophies of basically almost making a religion out of reserving judgment.
Well, you are just so deep. I don't even know where to go.
I don't know what I am.
Well, you're a little irreverent and pretty deep. But I mean, with the ego and the belief systems, I mean, I think that's exactly where we have gone so astray with ufology. And I'm not even sure if ufology, quote unquote, has ever been anything incredibly productive. What do you think?
It was for a long time when people were trying to figure things out, but it's not really doing it. I don't think it's doing much differently, at least not the big groups. I gave a lecture in 2008, I think it was called UFOs Aren't From Other Planets, Maybe. And what it was just a bunch of different ideas. Like, you think, the reigning paradigm is aliens from other planets. Let's look at like 5 or 6 or 8 other ideas about what the UFO thing is. And I listed them all. And the one thing I said at the beginning of the lecture was, I think it's time to get rid of big UFO groups. And I had people walk out.
Oh, are you kidding? Well, see, we need a tag team then.
Yeah. I said either get rid of them or change them into data gathering organizations, because they're great at that.
Well, I mean, we don't even need to change them into that. That's exactly what they are. We just need to call them by their real name.
Yeah, it's data gathering and creating a large database. And if they can refine the ways that CUFOs, and not really CUFOs anymore, but National UFO Reporting Center and MUFON, if they can come up with a set of questions that aren't so narrow and are a little bit more open-ended, although it'd be kind of hard to put it in a database, and share that database openly with each other and everybody, I think that'd help. Here I go back to ego again, and belief system. And then everybody else, small. And the other thing I said, small groups, very focused. What's the word? Very focused ideas about what they're doing, how they're doing it, and 5, 6, 8, 10, 20 people or whatever. Do your work. Concentrate on what you're doing. Don't announce it to anybody. Don't get a TV show. But when you're done with it, tell everybody else what you did and say, this is what we did. These are our results. See what you can do with this and see how that works. You can do that with the internet now. I've involved in groups online with people that are all over the world, which we couldn't do, 10, well, maybe not 10, but 15 or 20 years ago. You couldn't do that. Now it's really, really easy. So I think that the defocused method of research should be great, because then you have like 5,000 people working on 100 different things instead of 10,000 people working on one thing.
Exactly. And, it's interesting because I was on UFO podcast with Martin Willis on Wednesday night. And, he basically asked me, what would you do if you were executive director of MUFON?
I'd break it up.
I said I would fire everybody from the top down, being the shy and demure creature that I am.
Yeah.
But and it's true. It's like, and I also kind of threw out there, you have to decide as a researcher whether you want to be, a state director and responsible for collecting funds for MUFON to pay their salaries, headquarters salaries, and you want to be the cruise director and organize social events, or do you want to put your focus into actually connecting with other researchers all over the world and doing research?
Yeah, I think those are all great goals, I guess. But the thing is, those are all parts of being a giant organization. And I think even I don't hate MUFON. I don't think they should go away. I don't think, I did say, break up large groups. Yeah, I do pretty much mean that. But in the way that they are now, MUFON has a TV show. Like, I don't think MUFON should have a TV show. I'm not even sure if they should have national annual meetings. But at the local level, I think that's a great idea. Get people together and under the banner of MUFON and concentrate. Use that as a framework for having small groups doing whatever they need to do or want to do.
I think that for me, having been state director, what I would do honestly is I would support the people that are volunteering their time and not make the state directors pay fees to be in the organization. I wouldn't, I would honestly, I have said this before, MUFON headquarters should hire a full-time fundraiser to get funds. I mean, you could reach out to some larger corporations and actually obtain funding that would go into research and help people like Robert Powell and the Scientific Review Board analyze data and all of these things, instead of just kind of, pushing people down this kind of, chasing their tail, so to speak.
Yeah.
And I think you have to support your members.
Yeah, exactly.
And to be in touch with them. I mean, it was sad to me to go in there and see. I remember there was one instance when I first started and I was investigating a case. I called another investigator in LA who had a similar case, and I said, hey, this is Erica Lukes. I'm the state director, yada, yada. You've got a case similar to mine. And he says, oh my gosh, I can't believe that you're actually reaching out to me, because I haven't even had anybody in my own state reach out to me. And I've been a field investigator.
Little fiefdom, and they kind of keep that ego.
Oh my God. And I'm just like, seriously, how do you ever expect to make a contribution if you're not reaching out to everybody?
Yeah.
It makes no sense to me. And I think it's sad that people in the organization don't feel like there's a greater connection and like they're all working towards the same thing.
Right. And also, it's really hard to pound into people's heads, but stop thinking you're trying to prove anything to anyone. I mean, I think that's a really bad idea. Try to prove anything to any, like, we're going to prove to the greater society that this is a real thing. I think most of the greater society already agrees with you. It's the people in power that don't. You're never going to affect them. They're going to have stuff happen to them personally before they change their opinion, or the press or whoever.
Right.
So that's just my view of things. But looking for data, understanding, and like you said, cross-pollination of different people having information, I think that's far more important.
Absolutely. And we'll talk more about that because I think it's important dialogue to have. I'm Erica Lukes here with Greg Bishop. You can find me on UFOclassified.com. I've got some good information there. And then find me on Facebook as well. We are going to take a break. We will be right back.
Listen very carefully.
This is Houston. Say again, please. Houston, we've had a problem.
This is UFO Classified, live every Friday night, 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern, exclusively on the KCOR Digital Radio Network. The truth is out there, just waiting to be discovered.
And now, if you will, accompany me on a journey to the future.
For more information on the host of UFO Classified, Erica Lukes, upcoming guests, as well as links to the past shows,
visit her website at UFOclassified.com.
UFO Classified.
UFO Classified.
This is KCOR Las Vegas, home of the Digital Radio Network, broadcasting from a shack just south of Area 51.
Wait, that doesn't exist.
This is the KCOR Digital Radio Network. Now for the news.
Now, broadcasting in digital HD radio.
The disc landed at a ranch at Corona, New Mexico. The rancher turned it over to the Air Force. Rancher W.W. Brazil was the man who discovered the saucer.
What I thought was a star began coming in my direction at a very rapid rate of speed.
The unidentified object, which some sources thought might be a blimp, moved slowly down the Pacific coast from Santa Monica and disappeared south of Long Beach.
I saw a UFO, and it went down the river, turned right at the United Nations, turned left, and then down the river.
UFO Classified.
UFO Classified.
No more plausible deniability. Fact, fiction, or the truth. You decide. And now, the new voice of the high desert, the hostess of UFO Classified, Erica Lukes.
I'm back.
Oh.
Well, on that note, I will say that's the most rousing introduction to the second half. No, that's awesome. I love it. So anyway, welcome back, my friends. This is Erica Lukes, and happy Fantopia Friday. It is always Wonderful to be here on KCOR. And you know, it is Friday night, so that means it's ladies' night. And you can stick around for the beautiful, fabulous Tina Marie Unrestricted Airspace and Hyperspace with Solaris Blue Raven. So grab your pajamas, make some margaritas, pop some popcorn, and have a good night on KCOR. In the next couple weeks, I am going to actually bring on a guest who does not do radio shows. And he is someone that I have become friends with and have learned a great deal from. And Barry Greenwood is in the process of actually digitizing all of his files. His name is Greg Long, and he has studied the Yakima region and written a really, really wonderful book, which I have on my website. If you can find that, it's actually out of print. It's almost $100, but it is probably one of the best books that I have in my collection. And we will be very blessed to have Greg Long on UFO Classified coming up here in the next couple weeks. But on that note, I am here with Greg Bishop, and of course, you know, we have these great conversations when we're on break, but we were talking for the last hour about Tom DeLonge, about ego, about belief systems, about all of these things, and all of these things definitely are playing into what we're seeing now in ufology. And in my opinion, and I don't know how you feel about this, Greg, I think ufology, I hate to even use that word.
Yeah, it's a dumb word. It should be thrown out. Just UFO study or UFO research, because ufology isn't an ology. It's a group of people who are interested, all the way from people who are extremely intelligent and good at what they do and dedicated, to people that are spreading rumors and inaccurate things and never check on their sources and believe something if it agrees with a belief system and violently oppose something if it doesn't. So there's that whole spectrum. So it's like any other human endeavor, but it has no governing body to tell people what should and shouldn't be. And it shouldn't. I really don't think it should, unfortunately.
So, I mean, what do you think about, because we had a question in the chat room from my friend Jeff, but what do you think about the UFO conferences?
I think they should still go on because it's valuable to have some place where people, as you know, and as people that go to these things know, and the speakers know, it's one of the few places where you can sit there with nobody else around and talk to people and exchange information that you would not do online, you wouldn't do on the phone or whatever. Now, you know, people complain, well, they're just there to make money and this and that. I don't think any of those conferences make money hand over fist.
No.
Almost none of them do. You know, IUFOC may be one of the few exceptions because they've been around so long. So they have a nice, big, fat built-in audience. But yeah, I still see value in them. I think there should be more online ones. I think I might have been involved in the first online UFO conference, or one of the first, a few years ago, and it went well. And you know, people liked it because they spent $10 and they could see 8 speakers. You know, they had to look at it online, but they could ask questions in a chat and all that. And that I think that's valuable too. But I don't think you'll ever replace a live actual conference. And I'm not down on them as some people are.
Well, and you know, I think it's interesting. I think the one thing that would be good is to see some new speakers, because you get the same old, just like the TV shows and different things. It's like the same people that shall remain nameless that are kind of dominating things. And I think there are other people that need to be highlighted.
Yeah. Well, they have to be there because you have to get butts and seats. But, you know, whatever you think of the International UFO Congress, what they did last year, I thought was good. They were like, you know, the stalwarts. They have Stan Friedman and Richard Dolan and whoever else there. But then they also have, you know, you or Ryan or, you know, people.
Hey,
that
I'm a big ticket item, man.
No. I'm saying,
I'm
saying none of the rest of us are really big ticket items, but people sat and listened and heard new things, some new things, and I thought that was great. I mean, there's. You can. That's another problem I see that people have. It's like, you know, that thing is just useless and full of crap. It's like nothing is so black and white. Right. And I thought, you know, on balance, I actually applauded the UFO. No matter what you think of Tom DeLonge or, you know, anything else that happened there.
I
at least
loved
they're making
that.
Yeah, Yeah, at least they're making an effort to try and get some new voices in there because they realize that they're going to have to because things are changing. And I think that's great. I hear a lot more alternative views than I used to.
Oh, and that's really a great way to put that. And I had the best time at UFO Congress, and it is such a professional, exceptional event in a beautiful location that it was an honor to be there. I mean, it was so nerve-wracking, and I loved. It was so cool to have different people come up to me and say, just kind of feel empowered, and I love that. That's really important to me, that kind of human connection. And I think that I admire Alejandro and the Open Minds crew for getting Erling Strand there. It was like, yes, or Ted Rowe. Those are the people that have really, especially, Erling Strand, those are the people that we need to listen to because they have the research that is going to move this forward. And the one thing that, I was just thinking when I was watching Erling Strand from Hessdalen, Norway, if you don't know, any of you who were listening, the one thing that was kind of disheartening to me was to see the fact that, he had about a fourth, his audience was not quite the size of Colonel Halt by a long shot.
Yeah.
And to me, it's like somehow we have to stress to people who are interested in this field that there is more to life than Rendlesham. There is more to this than Roswell. And we have to move on from these isolated cases, especially when you see personal disputes erupt over decades and bad blood and things that kind of taint the original case. We have to look at the research that's being done now. And I think that, whatever we can do to kind of move people in that direction would be a good thing.
Yeah, it's if you can get away from being emotionally attached to your hypothesis, I think that's a big step, and I think that's where a lot of these things happen. If somebody attacks you personally, I don't see any problem with defending yourself or I don't know about getting back at them, but defending yourself if they have some merit. If they don't, ignore. Do not engage. Ignore. But you have to be prepared that you might not have crossed all your T's and dotted all your I's, and that somebody can point that out to you. And then when they do point that out to you, hopefully privately, that you should be grateful. I've had people point out problems and privately to me, and I tell them thank you so much. I didn't realize that, and I actively seek out people who are going to give me some feedback and criticism.
Okay, so what do you think about the fact that we seem to have this kind of laser precision, focus in this field, and we are still, after all this time, focusing on single cases, and we're neglecting the data and what it's telling us?
I don't exactly know what the data is telling us because I'm not a data miner, although I think that's really, really important to have all these databases in some place where they can be, where meta-analysis can be done and patterns can emerge from the data that you would never notice just by collecting all the data yourself. And some of these patterns may be valuable for insight or even, unspeakably be able to predict when something might happen when it seems so unpredictable right now. I mean, the only predictable thing about the UFO thing is how unpredictable it is. Just about any paranormal pursuit.
But you know what? Here's what I wonder. I mean, honestly, is it because you have got 50 years of data in a large organization's database, but yet there hasn't been any real analysis done? And to those of us who have tried to go in there and do that, we are seeing that there are recurrent patterns. And, you wonder why after 50 years haven't we started to kind of shine a spotlight on this? And why aren't we doing something more proactive?
Because of what we were talking about earlier, because people guard and hoard their databases and don't want anybody else to see it, which is, the exact opposite of what should be done. If ufology was an ology, they would be sharing data. and for anybody too. I mean, of course, there's going to be hundreds of people that make really weird conclusions based on the data, but if the data was all in one place and searchable, and and you could order the data based on whatever criteria you wanted, I think that patterns would emerge that I would never have known of, and most of the people doing it would never know of. I think there'd be a lot of surprises in there. One of the problems with it is, and a worldwide database would be great. One of the problems with this, and I think Jacques Vallée pointed this out once, is that when you get data from Brazil and you get data from the UK or whatever, you've got cultural differences in there that are hard to bridge in the way people describe things, the way people remember things, and all this, the way that the investigators act and ask the questions. These things those kind of things will be problems, like trying to get a database that reflects the differences in perception, data collection, culture, all that stuff. But I think that'd be an incredible goal to pursue. And if somebody had an organization with that goal, let's get all the data, let's get some database people that know what they're doing, and get some people that know the subject and are not hooked into any certain idea to help start massaging that data, or at least putting it in a format where it is, where you can combine all these different databases in a useful way. I think that's probably one of the next steps in UFO study.
And I mean, I absolutely agree. And to me, when I first started this, I was shocked at how much we weren't reaching out to other researchers. I mean, one of the biggest shocks to me was the fact that I could, I very quickly found Hessdalen and Erling Strand and Dr. Massimo Teodorani and some of their work. And I approached, MUFON headquarters or some of the people higher up, and I said, hey, we got to pay attention to him. We should get Erling Strand over here. Why aren't we highlighting their work? And it was amazing to me how many people didn't even know who he was or what Hessdalen was. And I thought, holy crap, we're so isolated. We're not doing our job as independent researchers, and we have to reach out to other people. And Erling has been very gracious with me, as has Dr. Teodorani, and they are willing to share information to see other people grow and to encourage a younger generation. And I think that we need to do that, and I think we can. I think we need to get kind of this dysfunction out of the way, and then focus on working together with a small group of people internationally and doing that, refining our criteria.
Yeah, and also, and this is a tough one, trying to do some of these projects without using somebody who's a star to do it. You know what I mean? What would be optimal is to do some of these projects and doing completely anonymously. People need to know who each other is to communicate and all that, but not in a way where it's like, oh, I'm the spokesperson for that. So if the TV station, National Geographic calls or something like that, I'm the person to talk to. If we can get some of that out of the equation and make it, as Whitley Strieber said this a few years ago. He said he thinks that the UFO thing, whatever the visitors are doing, whether you agree with Strieber or not, I don't know, but he thinks what they're doing is trying to reveal all this thing in the most democratic way possible. And I think that's a really good model to try to emulate. Try to do something that's just where there are no leaders there as much as possible. There's no people who cannot be questioned, not really everybody's opinion counts, but at least people are not shut down because they don't agree with the mission statement of whoever's running the organization or the group or the database or whatever. This is why I think the smaller groups are better, because there's a lot more accountability in a smaller group.
I agree. I think that there's so many good people. We don't truly trust. I have learned the hard way that I don't trust a lot of people in this field, at least a lot of people that are in a higher up setting, in real out there in the public. But oh my gosh, I don't know. We need to do something, because I think that all of us are here, we're listening tonight, or joining organizations because we care, because we all have that interest, and we've just been kind of led astray. And I don't know whether that's deliberate or it's just a matter of really inept leadership.
I think it's people that either, inept or I hate to say it, but going back to ego again, where they have their fiefdom and they want to protect it. And they lose sight of the fact that they're trying to gain more understanding of a mystery. They may talk a good line, but it's just like a politician. I'm going to say whatever I can to get in here, and then when I'm in here, I'm going to do whatever I want, and forget that there's other people here that got me in here, that have concerns, and that I have to be answerable to. And that's not just ufology. That's any group of humans trying to do something. That's why the phenomenon is not a top-down phenomenon. So I don't think that the UFO study should be a top-down structure either. Mimic what did I say this during the break? Mimic the obliqueness of the subject.
And I love that. And it's really true. And oh my gosh, I've got so many things to talk to you about, and I want to. It's like, oh Lord, I love it.
We got like 35 minutes, so we can do this again. That's fine.
Oh Lord, we're going to have to do it again. And we're of course coming up to break, but I want to just throw out Carla Turner right before break, because that's the way I roll.
How many minutes do we have? Like 5 here?
Yeah, probably not even that. Maybe 4. So you'll have to do a little.
I met Carla Turner in 1994 or 5. I interviewed her at the 95 or 96, I think, MUFON conference, National MUFON conference in Austin. And after the interview, she started sending me letters, and we had a correspondence. And she, the one thing I take away from Carla, whether you or I agree with anything, she was a UFO, she was an abduction researcher that had experiences. But she said something that is like a touchstone for me. There's a few quotes from heroes of mine, and one of hers was, "I think the answer is going to lie in the anomalous details, not in the thing that everybody expects."
Wow.
Yeah. And that to me is that is like, that should be on the 10 Commandments tablet.
Yeah, I mean, and this is the thing. I've talked to you a little bit about like what your experience was with Carla and things. And if people don't know, Dr. Carla Turner was out there. You can watch a lot of her talks on YouTube, but she was very well respected and a very kind of a mild-mannered, beautiful woman, incredibly intelligent. And she had some interesting experiences, and a lot of people feel that she was murdered.
I don't think she was murdered. She smoked, and she got a virulent form of cancer, and it took her away very quickly, which is unfortunate. I talked to her husband. I think he's called Casey in the books, but his name is Elton. And I talked to him for about a year after she passed away, but then I think he moved out of the subject. And like I said, I mean, to me, she was a very polite, intelligent person, but she also didn't, she wouldn't suffer people she thought were fools very quickly or gladly. That's another thing I really admired about her. She was nice about it, but if you weren't helping her with what she wanted to find out, she had no time for you.
See, I need to be more like that. Jeez.
Yeah, and she wasn't mean about it. She's just like, okay, fine, you have nothing for me. And she said, and people criticize me and say I'm not doing things the right way or whatever. And she says, I don't care. I'm doing the thing that I think is important in the way that I think is important, and not in an egotistical way, like you're wrong and I'm right or whatever. She's just like, I have my ideas, and if you have something to contribute and you have a valid criticism, I want to hear it. Other than that, I don't want to hear your insane babbling. So she didn't put it in that way, but I think that was basically her attitude. And I think some of the things I've been saying here directly got pulled from Carla's attitude about these things. whether I agreed with her, what her view of the phenomenon was or not. And she knew I didn't quite agree with her and didn't know she was on the right track. And she did not care, which is another very admirable thing. You didn't have to agree with her for her to engage with you and consider you somebody that she could talk to on an ongoing basis. And that's very admirable too.
Yeah, absolutely. And it is interesting, and I want to talk about this when we come back, to see how, her death was kind of spun into this mythology, as have, other researchers' deaths. Kind of, it goes into this conspiracy theory myth and what's true, what's not. I mean, I absolutely believe that people have been killed because of this sort of thing. And so I'd like to get your opinion on that. Okay. And a couple other things. And I also wanted to hear a little bit more about the kind of the mystery surrounding your exchanges with Carla, because I know there were some odd things that took place.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. How much time we got here? 30 seconds?
Oh, I know. 30 seconds. Give us a little, like a little, I don't know, nugget.
Carla was one of two researchers who I had mail tampering with going into my mailbox. Oh, we got a minute. Okay, let's see how much I can.
Come on, you got it.
Draw this one out. Yeah. The thing that there are two researchers who I had mail tampering with. I used to have a P.O. box, and the reason I had a P.O. box is I didn't want crazy people to know my address, because I was dealing with all these weird subjects while I was doing my magazine in the 90s, the Excluded Middle. It was mine later. I started with two friends, Robert Larson and Peter Stenzel. In the last 3 issues or so, it was just me. But Carla, I told you we had interactions with each other and kept in touch and talked on the phone quite often. But yes. She would send me, information, and sometimes every time it was opened.
Oh, and that was the way to end it. Yeah. America Lukes with Greg Bishop. We're going to take our last break. We'll be back.
Stand by.
This is UFO Classified with Erica Lukes. The phone lines are open now at 702-425-9230. That's 702-425-9230. Worldwide callers use Skype name KCOR Radio. More UFO Classified with Erica Lukes on the KCOR Digital Radio Network. After this.
Attention everyone. In 3, 2, 1.
Are you sick and tired of being surrounded by deception that is wrapped and packaged as propaganda truth?
Listen very carefully.
Maybe you just need a reality check.
That's the craziest thing I've ever heard.
Stop being force-fed by the mass media and tune into the KCOR Digital Radio Network, Wednesday nights at 9 p.m. Pacific, 12 a.m. Eastern, for a wake-up call.
You must not abuse the power you've been given. Eventually, you will lose control of that power and the whole world will suffer.
Reality Check, hosted by Jessica Johns and Joey Mirabella, gets to the core of the truth with eccentric thoughts spoken only among the smallest of circles. Whether it's the paranormal or the latest conspiracy, the hosts of Reality Check have it covered. Tune in Wednesday nights, 9 p.m. Pacific, 12 a.m. Eastern, for a dose of truth on Reality Check, hosted by Jessica Johns and Joey Mirabella, exclusively on the KCOR Digital Radio Network.
This is the world-famous KCOR.
That's the only station I listen to.
If ever a breed was affectionate to a fault, it's the Golden Retriever. They're people dogs, pure and simple. And the Golden Retriever Rescue of Southern Nevada needs your help. If you would like to volunteer, foster, adopt, or donate, go to the Golden Retriever Rescue of Southern Nevada's website at grrsn.org. That's grrsn.org. Or call 598-GOLD. That's 598-GOLD.
Friday night, 9 p.m. Pacific, Jump onto the celestial highway and travel at the speed of light. Into hyperspace. Hyperspace. Hosted by Solaris Blue Raven. She navigates you through the cosmic tides of mysticism into the world of covert technology, UFOs, mystical sciences, and the world of unforeseen forces.
You get to really sort of enjoy a bizarre ride.
Listen live, Friday night, 9 p.m. Pacific, for Hyperspace, the one show that blows the whistle off our government black ops projects. Hyperspace, hosted by Solaris Blue Raven. Exclusively on the KCOR Digital Radio Network. Want to take a ride?
You're listening to UFO Classified with Erica Lukes, where the truth isn't hidden beneath the black lines of a Sharpie.
That's the craziest thing I've ever heard.
To be on with Erica, call 702-425-9230. That's 702-425-9230. Worldwide callers use Skype name KCOR Radio.
Radio contact.
Share your thoughts on the show on Twitter by using hashtag KCOR. Or head over to the live chats at KCORradio.com.
The audience goes nuts.
And now, your host of UFO Classified.
Are you ready?
Erica Lukes.
Paranormal, alternating with weird music and audio. That sounds like a good time to me, and you can hear that 8 to 10 p.m. Pacific Standard Time on Radio Mysterioso. And my guest tonight, Greg Bishop, who is not only a lecturer, an author, but he's been doing Radio Mysterioso for, oh my gosh, almost 2 decades, 17 years, or is it longer?
Since 97 or 98, even though it wasn't called that then. I started on a pirate radio station that the FCC shut down.
Oh, now that's a good story.
Yeah, the funny thing is when I went on Art Bell, he knew about it. I don't know how he knew about it, but he knew about it. It was called KBLT. It was put together by a woman who had lived in San Francisco and then moved here. There's a book about it called 40 Watts from Nowhere, because the station was a 40-watt station in Silver Lake in Los Angeles. And I would go to her apartment, and the studio was in a closet underneath her stairway.
Oh, that is hardcore. I love it.
Yeah, and like Mike Watt from the Minutemen, the band had a show there, and he one time the Red Hot Chili Peppers played live in her living room on the station.
That is so rad.
Yeah,
I think somebody would come into my little sound studio, quote unquote, and I mean, Tina Marie knows about how I've tried so hard to build up my sound station. And I have to tell you this because this is a funny story. When I first came onto KCOR, I was trying to, because I had hardwood floors like you do, and there was a lot of reverb, and so I had tried to do my own little sound insulation, and I took one of my art easels and put a blanket over it, and then a couple other ridiculous things, and one of my cats got in and started climbing up the blankets, and then the whole thing collapsed, and it sounded like a car had come through the it was so bad. And of course I'm just like, what do I do? So I just kept talking. I'm like, okay, we're on it, we're gonna keep going, and everybody else is just like, what just happened? It was so bad.
Well, you're a trooper, and you know how to keep the show going. So,
well, you got to do something. But yeah. I'm thinking that probably the lady that had the person that did 40 watts was, probably had better sound quality than I do coming from my studio.
I don't know what I used to listen to the station. It sounded like every other station. And then finally the FCC came and shut off the station. And then they went up there. It's like, wonder why the station shut off. So they went and turned it back on again. The next time when they went up there, FCC people were waiting in the stairwell of the building where the transmitter was. Then, about 8 or 9 years later, a bunch of people got together, and I was on an internet radio station, and we all put our money together, and we put a transmitter up on my roof. I had a pirate station broadcasting from the roof of my building, and people could hear it all the way out to Santa Monica. They could hear it for quite a distance. And we used to shut it off on Friday nights. Turn it on Friday nights at like 5 or 6 because we figured, hey, the FCC people have gone off for the weekend. And we'd shut it off again at 6 or 8 in the morning on Monday because they weren't on duty, so they couldn't come out and triangulate the signal and find it. They came out on a Friday night at like 9 o'clock.
Oh.
And a friend of mine was staying here, and he's a conspiracy writer, which is even funnier on top of that. And he gave me right up to the FCC. I was like, you're a conspiracy writer? You told him my name and everything? I was just joking with him. But, yeah, I still have the letter where it said, cease and desist or you will be fined and all that within 15 days. And we figured, well, we got 15 days, so we just turned it on, left it on 24 hours a day until the deadline.
You are a rebel.
It was
wow.
fun.
So, okay, seriously, you should write like a whole book about your life, all of your experiences.
I don't know. I might one day. I don't think it's really interesting anybody except me, except an anecdote like we're doing right now.
I don't know. I bet it's pretty interesting. But we were talking about Carla Turner and your mail tampering. So tell us more about that, because that is pretty fascinating and a little bit disturbing.
Yeah, well, this was during a period where I was really paranoid, so this didn't help. What happened was every piece of mail that Carla sent to me was opened, obviously opened. And if you don't want people to know that you've opened their mail, you can do it. It's very easy. You just steam the letter open or whatever. Very easy to open a letter and not let anybody know. But apparently somebody wanted me to know that the letters were being opened. So they would all say, I would see, they were opened up and sealed back up with tape. And I called Carla. I said, what's going on? Are you resealing your envelope? She said, no. And she said, that happens with a few different people I send these to. And some of them were just destroyed and ripped up. I mean, you could still read it and all that, but the envelope was all ripped and everything. Every single letter from her. And then she said, okay, let me do what I do with other people. And she wrote sealed by sender and put a big piece of tape across it. And then it stopped right after that. The only other person that I had that happen with was a cattle mutilation researcher named Peter Jordan. Peter Jordan, we had on, he had never, well, I don't know if he ever did an interview, but at one point, my friend Robert Larson, one of the co-founders of the magazine, had a show on KUCI in Irvine on the college station. We interviewed him on one of the shows. We had had him on his show because I said, hey, I can get somebody on your show at such short notice. We did the interview, and it was an hour, and we was like, God, there's 100 other things we can talk about. Let's continue this interview in a couple of weeks. He said, sure, great. We set it up. We had the day. 2 days before the interview, he writes me an email and says, I can't do the interview. I'm not talking about this subject anymore. Please don't contact me anymore. And that was the last I heard of Peter Jordan. I mean, he's still alive and he's fine and all that, but something freaked him out.
Wow. And
he was the only other one with all the opened and destroyed mail when he sent stuff to me.
So, what are your thoughts on that?
Somebody wanted me to know that Carla and Peter Jordan were people that were being watched. It didn't affect how I spoke to them or anything. It's well, what the hell am I going to do about it? Nobody's threatened me or told me to stop. That's the other thing. I mean, I went through this huge paranoid period that was terrible. I mean, I thought people were, tapping my phone, and I did get phone calls day and night, and if I didn't have a machine hooked up, it would ring 20, 30, 40, 50 times before I picked it up. And then, of course, you hear just noise on the other line or a hum or something. And then I'm so paranoid thinking it's some kind of tone that's going to turn into mind control, carrier for mind. So I hang the phone up right away. People were pulling up in front of my house and taking pictures. Just stuff like this. And the funny thing is that when I decided that I was tired of it, I was like, I'm tired of feeling scared all the time. Let me just not make a huge effort and not feel scared. It stopped.
And that is so strange.
And it's not because I was imagining it, because people, my wife was there at the time. She heard the phone calls. She saw, everybody saw the ripped up mail, all that. It wasn't something I was imagining, maybe part of it, but yeah, my mindset changed it made a difference in the external manifestation of it. Really strange. I didn't celebrate anybody that. I just stopped feeling like that. It took a while.
So what do you what do you attribute that to?
This goes to like some of what I said in my speech at International UFO Conference, that what you think about the world, and this is no idea, nothing to do with me. I did not come up with this, but how you think about things affects very heavily how they occur in your life, to the point of how you think about reality becomes that reality in a physical way, whereas it could go in any direction before that. Almost like what's the idea? The quantum physics idea of that an experiment affects the outcome. Looking at something affects the outcome of it. And if you look at information theory, looking at something probably affects what it is at a very basic level. I'm still trying to wrestle with that, so it doesn't sound like a silly new agey thing to say. It's not. I mean, there are Nobel Prize winning physicists have already expressed this like 10 or 15 or 20 years ago. It's just now being picked up by a new generation of people. And I'm still trying to get my mind around it. Does that make any sense?
No, I mean, it does. And when I listen to you say that, I mean, I absolutely believe, and I've seen this happen in my own life. I mean, you manifest what you dwell on. And I absolutely believe that but to have, such in your face, your mail being ripped open or your phone calls being tapped or being monitored and seeing cars outside or vans outside your place. I mean, I talk about manifesting things and having things come into kind of a reality, but it's not like that in your face.
Do you want to know, I'll tell you the completely unbelievable, completely insane, weirdest thing that happened to me that scared the crap out of me. I was in my house at 3 a.m. I was the only person there. I was working on my magazine. I decided to go into the kitchen, and I was in a downstairs apartment. The upstairs apartment was the exact same floor plan. So it's 3 a.m. My landlord lives upstairs. He has a child. Him and his wife had one child. So I get up out of my chair and I walk to the kitchen, and I notice somebody upstairs also walked into the kitchen. I thought, that's interesting. I walk into the living room and I hear the footsteps above me walk into the living room. It's 3 a.m. And I thought, well, that's a coincidence. Then I walk back down the hallway and the footsteps followed me back down the hallway, the squeaky boards upstairs. Then I'm starting to get really scared. I go in the bedroom. This went on for 5 or 10 minutes till I was just about insane with like paranoia. And then I did the weirdest thing ever. I went in my room. This sounds like I'm completely insane. I went in my room, opened a file up on my computer, a Word file, and in the biggest font that I could type, I wrote, "I know what you're doing, stop it." And it stopped.
Huh.
I know that sounds like I made it up, but that's how I remember it happening. And at that point, I think that's the point I got, that was near the end of like, I've got to stop feeling paranoid because it's starting to rule my life. And I don't like it ruling my life. So, I didn't dare go up there and pound on the door and say, "What are you doing?" I was too scared to do that. I didn't know what I'd see.
Huh. That is really, yeah. I mean, oh my gosh. I mean, and I know that, for me, and I've not had an in-your-face experience like that, but I know when you dwell on this topic, especially, there are things that manifest. I mean, if you're going to focus on, every time you go by the street light, it's flickering or it's going out or something like this, I mean, inevitably that will come into your realm of, reality. But to have stuff like that, that's pretty in your face. And you say you've never had anything paranormal or bizarre happen.
Not that I remember, apart from the fact of like having psychic things. Like I turned the corner on my street one time. This is all during when I was doing the magazine. It was when my life was in flux and things were changing. And this is like Jeff Ritzmann's idea about the liminality thing. I turned the corner and I knew there was a package for me behind, and I had been gone for 3 days. I knew there was a package for me behind the door of my apartment. And I walked up to the apartment, opened the door. I knew that I was going to see a little package there. And lo and behold, there was a package there. And it was a little black plastic bag, which is what I'd seen in my mind. how did it get inside the house? Well, a friend called me like 3 days later and said, did you get the package? I said, yeah. How'd you get it in the door? He said, I squeezed it under the weather strip. It was loose enough that he was able to push that thing under the door so nobody would steal it. But the weird thing was that I knew it was there. And that's the only time that's ever happened to me. And it was it's like as clear as you're just imagining something that's like, I remember this that happened, or I'm going to do something this way. It's just a picture in your mind. And it was exactly the same picture that I had in my mind. So, when things happen to you like that, you start to realize that things aren't exactly as you've been told or the way everybody experiences them. And you cross that Rubicon, and you can appreciate when people tell you things that sound completely crazy, and still be able to listen to them without saying, you're nuts or that isn't true or whatever. Especially if they seem genuinely perplexed and a little bit bothered by what happened to them. I'm sure you get this all the time with all the people you've talked to on investigations.
Oh, absolutely. But I mean, for me, I feel like we need to look at all of these different types of phenomena. Like we just are in this box in ufology, and I hate to use that word again, but why are we just looking at the UFO phenomenon? We should be looking at the paranormal aspect of this. We should be looking at, there's so much more. Why do you think that we're kind of cutting off our nose to spite our face?
Yeah. Well, what I think we should be looking at, and this is my hobby horse, and this was my lecture, was I think we should be looking at ourselves, because that is the instrument through which the UFO phenomenon and a lot of other paranormal stuff is experienced. I think there's a lot more leeway in the UFO phenomenon. I'm not exactly sure why. Oh, because of the variety. There aren't 8 zillion types of Bigfoot. There's some variation, but if you talk about like a being that somebody saw, if you get away from the American cultural stereotype of the gray, especially if you look at Albert Rosales' stuff, it's all over the map. Whatever you can imagine, practically people have seen. And that indicates to me that we're really involved in filtering the experience so that we can handle it, remember it, and tell the story about it later. And if we look closely at the way we perceive, remember, and spit out what we saw and remember what we saw and try to encode that in our memory, I think that is a big key in the UFO thing, is our role in it, which I think is way over 50%.
So where do we go? What should we do? Like, if we're just my listeners out there trying to make sense of this, where is a good place to go for information, or who are researchers that you hold up to high standards?
Mostly the classic people like Valet, Keel, Hynek, who wrote, what's that word? Project Identification. I can't remember his name.
Oh, Harley Rutledge.
That's it, Rutledge. The atmospheric physicist. See, I'm gonna lose at the UFO Jeopardy now.
Well, I better brush up then.
Anyway,
so I can take you down.
Yeah, the good place to start is before people started. I think those people didn't have their dog in the fight was, well, not having a dog in the fight. It was kind of like, we're really interested in this. We really want to know the answers. Here's what we found. Right. And none of those people said they had the answers. They just said, this is very interesting stuff, and it should be looked at. Greg Little's books, which are hard to find. People of the Web is one of them, which is a great one. Even other, people should read other books. They should read Bigfoot books. They should read, the classic ones, Ivan Sanderson's stuff. All these things go into informing your opinions. And the other thing I wanted to point out, that you said, where do people start? How do they get good information? I think you got to follow your own filter or feeling as to what's good information. And if you don't like it, or you think that's bad or whatever, then, take what you can out of it and then move on. Don't get stuck to one person's ideas about what things are. Form your own damn ideas. it's best. And I think the best thinking comes out of people who are independent thinkers and realize that their thoughts are just as good as other people's, especially if you have a good grounding. And I think you have to start out wide and possibly inaccurate to have any kind of good grounding in what you think is good and accurate and useful. You can't tell somebody how to think or what's good at first. They have to find that out for themselves, and go through a process of evolution in their thought. You can't have that evolution work without having the person go through it themselves. It's like having children. You can tell them whatever you want, but they're going to have to go through it themselves for those lessons to sink in.
Oh, and isn't that the truth? I mean, unfortunately, I had to learn a lot of, lessons quickly out of the gate, but I think hopefully, if we get enough of us out there, especially people that are a little bit, under the age of 50, that are kind of bringing that home and putting our attention in other places where, like you talk about project identification. That is such a great book. And you've got the work of, Clear Intent, Barry Greenwood. You've got Greg Long. I mean, there's so many people that have written good out-of-print books that came into this many, many decades ago and did good quality research, and that you hit it on the head. And now we've got all of these people that are just in there talking about their belief systems, their new religions, and, jumping on the bandwagon. So it's all about me talking at the talks. And I mean, I think
as soon as somebody tells you that they have the answer, run really fast.
Yeah. I mean, truly, or if somebody has kind of achieved like this cult-like status. I mean, that's the thing that's so amazing to me, to see different people at speaking engagements and then see the way they react to their quote-unquote fans, which I would never, or to see how they choose to interact and treat people like they deserve to be treated. I mean, the whole thing is so interesting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the one thing, you've probably already noticed this now, speaking a few times, people come up and talk to you about stuff that's happened to them. They don't want validation. They don't want you to explain it. They don't want you to take it over to your organization and enter it in the database. They just want to tell you what happened to them without having you interrupt them, contradict them, tell them they're crazy, tell them they're wonderful, or anything. Just listen. I've had so many people come up and tell me something that's happened to them, and they say, okay, thank you, and they walk away. And that's all they needed.
Right.
And I'm not going to dig and say, I just let them talk, because very soon you realize they just want somebody to talk to.
Exactly.
It's like talking therapy for them. And that's another reason maybe why live conferences should should be a thing and should not be. We shouldn't move away from that, because that connection with people is very important.
Absolutely, and we need to have a support system, because all of us, when we go out there and talk about it, or just enter a case report in a database, it's like we're taking a risk. And for you and I, who have been interacting in this in a public setting you much longer than I have, I mean, we've all suffered, kind of emotional or personal, financial, all of these things. I mean, my gosh, this affects us for the rest of our lives. And so we need to have support systems, I think, for all of us. And that's the thing. We need to support each other, because all of us are going to be wrong at some point in time.
Right. Yeah, and you just have to realize that and accept it. You're going to have to be able to say, like you just said, once in a while you just have to say, oh, I was wrong. And that's not the most horrible thing that can ever happen to you.
Definitely not. I guess it depends on the day, though. I don't know.
Yeah, that's true. It depends on the day and what you had invested in being wrong,
And if I'd gone to my therapist or not. We're not quite sure. But I knew this was going to be a great show. And so where is RadioMysterioso.com? Are you going to be speaking anywhere? Or do you have any other radio shows coming up, or what's on your agenda?
Radio Mysterioso puts up shows in an unscheduled fashion. I guess I'm trying to mimic the mimic the unpredictability of the subject, I guess.
I like it.
No, I'm just lazy. But so that probably every couple of weeks, on average, maybe 3, a show goes up. I've got 2 or 3 sitting in the pipe right now that I'm working on. I will be speaking at Roswell the last weekend of June, and at the East Coast Paraconference again this year in Liverpool, Nova Scotia in August. Those are the only speaking dates I have coming up. I until I come out with another book or something that I can go out and have people give me feedback on. I mean, I've gotten feedback on It Defies Language, and it's wonderful, and it's inspired people to do other things. The coolest thing that could happen, and I think you'll agree with this, is if you say something or do something or come up with an idea or point something out, and then 2 or 3 or 5 or 10 years later somebody says, I heard you say that thing, and then they do something that amazes everyone.
Isn't that awesome? And I know that you have done, and you will do that, because you're just kind of that cool.
Well, thank you. All I try to be is happy and positive. There's something negative going on. If it's worth dealing with, I'll deal with it. If it's not, I ignore it.
I love it. Don't engage. I'm Erica Lukes. Here with Greg Bishop, and this is UFO Classified. Next week, tune in because I have a mystery guest. I will let you know. I might be just like Greg Bishop and actually don't have that mystery guest booked, but I'll lead you to believe that it's something mysterious. So anyway, you guys have a great night. Stick around for Restricted Airspace. I will catch you next week.
Listen very carefully.
This is Houston. Say again, please. Houston, we've had a problem.
This is UFO Classified, live every Friday night, 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern, exclusively on the KCOR Digital Radio Network. The truth is out there, just waiting to be discovered.
And now, if you will, accompany me on a journey to the future.
For more information on the host of UFO Classified, Erica Lukes, upcoming guests, as well as links to the past shows,
visit her website at UFOclassified.com.
UFO Classified.
UFO Classified.
This is KCOR Las Vegas, home of the Digital Radio Network,